Hey there, everyone. Welcome to another amazing episode of Secrets in the Saddle, All Things Cycling podcast with your host, Sylvie and cycling coach. So before we get started, I have some quick announcements. I have two, actually, and they are related to winter or cycling training skills. Now, August is about the time where a lot of us start thinking about, what am I going to do to, improve what I'm already doing now? So you think about, how am I doing on the road? What kind of skills would I love to improve, and how am I going to get those skills? And that's where I have something so amazing for you. It doesn't matter where you're sitting because we're in like 35 different countries. Amazing. So this can impact all of you if it interests you or piques your interest. So the first thing is I have a cycling skills online 4-week workshop for women. And this is where we're going to, it's only for September and October. Each week we focus on a different skill. So first we really work on what is a smooth pedal stroke and how to get more efficient. I'm going to share with you the skills and tips and my secrets about that. And then we're going to move on to hills and then speed. And then we finish it up with nutrition. And we also talk about our weight training program, which is so important for strength training to become better. With this one, it's super fun because every week we do the workshop and then I give you homework and then we have a Q&A. So you basically have me as a coach for the whole month. And that is cyclingskillspro.com. Go, you can register now, secure your spot September or October. Then the next one is a much longer, more training, more geared towards working towards goals and really drilling in the skills that we go through in the 4-week program. Pedal stroke, then we get into the drills and it's periodized. I also help you with organizing yourself to be scheduled in your training so that you don't overdo it and you become very intentional. I just love this because a lot of people just get on the online programs and they just go for broke all the time. You have to plan it. It's an 80-20 rule, 80% endurance, 20% intensity. And if you're not getting that, you're just going to basically overtrain yourself and overdo it. So the 16-week program is dedicated to that and so much more. So this starts in November to March. So it's truly through the winter. Weight training, online program, maybe some racing, group riding. All of that is going to be part. You just join us and we'll take care of your winter training. Now go to 16weekroadcycling.ca and secure your spot. Registration is not open right now, but those who are on the VIP will get a chance to secure a spot at an early bird price. So don't wait, get on the list. All right, take care and have an amazing day. And don't forget to ride your bike. Welcome everyone to another amazing episode of Secrets in the Saddle, All Things Cycling with your host, Sylvie and her amazing guest, Jesse Jarjour, right? He's from Ottawa. He's going to correct me, I know it. But this episode is super amazing. Now, I know you might be listening to it on audio, but I highly recommend that you go and listen and watch the video on YouTube because this one's going to be a good visual. Reason why, Jesse is a bike fit specialist, and not just any bike fit specialist. He uses AI. And before we even get into that, I'm going to do a little quick bio. Please make sure that you follow me on Instagram and you follow Jesse on Instagram. And also share this podcast with your friends. Now, here's Jesse's bio. So Jesse has been fitting bikes to people for over a decade. In that time, he has fit over 2,000 individuals, mostly from Ottawa. So that's where he resides. But his clients have come from as far as Spain, Portugal, and the Middle East. His clients range from beginners to Kona qualifiers and national champions. He has trained under industry legends such as Pairac McGlynn, Todd Carver, and Ian O'Gorman, and holds certifications from Retul Trek Precision Fit and an International Bike Institution Level 2 certifications. He also has his USAC Level 3 coaching certification. Now, that's not just it. This is the good stuff, okay? In 2017, Jesse, so he's been a bike fitter, began to pursue studies in computer science, followed up by programming experience where he gained his undergrad degree in economics. And I don't know how that transformed, but economics and AI sounds way more interesting.
We can get into that one. It might be out of the scope a little bit, but there's a bit of
yeah, totally. I would love to know how that came about. So here's the thing. His original motivation was to develop a unique performance matrix for training and identifying junior athletes, but quickly found a subset of AI. Now, we all know AI is quickly dominating the technology industry, called computer vision, and realized he could design a program to automate parts of bike fit. So this is where we're getting into all this cool bike fit stuff, because that's what Jesse does. 2 years later, he created this program and community called MyVeloFit. Now, he launched MyVeloFit, has now empowered riders all over the world to improve their cycling position on their own by providing AI-based recommendations for the positioning. And that's what we're going to be talking about after. Now, Jesse, of course, finds time to do other things, such as getting on his bike when he has time, getting back to it. And he bike fits at Bushtukah in Ottawa. And he also, like me, is looking forward to suffering on Tuesday night crit nights if they ever come back. So welcome to the podcast, Jesse. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thanks, Sylvie. That was, I appreciate the introduction.
Well, I love bringing individuals on the podcast that are doing extraordinary cool things with regards to cycling. And when I saw this, as usual, scoping around the Facebook bike pages, and I'm like, hey, now that's cool. So I saw Jesse, and we're going to get into this, but first, we're going to ask Jesse about his background, how he got into cycling. So Jesse, give us a little bit of a background as to where you started cycling and then right into like this whole cool bike fit AI stuff.
So it's funny how often I've heard this story, but I got into cycling through triathlon. So I was, I wouldn't say I was in great shape. I think I was still smoking back then, which was kind of funny. And my brother and I, it was when Simon Whitfield did really well. I think, did he win the Olympics or he podiumed at the Olympics? And as brothers do, as we said, I could beat you at a triathlon. And so we scheduled a triathlon. He lived in Seattle and I lived in Winnipeg at the time. So we were going to do a meet in Montana for a triathlon. And nice. He never trained and never showed up. And
typical, right? Like you're standing there, where's my buddy?
Well, I knew before I got there that he wasn't good. I actually didn't end up doing that one either, but I ended up doing a couple of triathlons that summer and doing terrible at them other than the bike. And I mean, I hear this story from a lot of my clients. It's like, the only part of it I enjoyed was the cycling. So I got into biking, and I think I did my first crit the next year, and I fell in love with crit racing. So I've always loved hurling myself around a Tuesday night crit course in Manitoba. It was at Assiniboine Park, and there was a formal garden that we raced around, which was really cool. And then moved to Ottawa and quickly realized that the field was a little bit stronger here and bigger. I would race like a 12-person crit in Winnipeg, and that was a big turnout. yeah, and I've been kind of biking ever since. I got into bike fitting because my first bike that I was sold was essentially a 56, and I'm barely 5'8". So like I was
Nice.
stretched out. I could barely get the seat low enough, and I had all sorts of issues. So kind of started learning bike fit then.
Nice. So how did you find yourself in Ottawa?
I grew up. I grew up in Ottawa. So my dad traveled a lot for work. So they retired in Ottawa, and I mean Winnipeg. It's a nice enough city, but I didn't really want to stay there. And as soon as I had an excuse to leave, I left. I
Oh,
came back to
why were
Ottawa.
you in Winnipeg? Is
My
that
dad had a job there. That was kind of his last job, and I moved there to study economics at
oh,
the University of Manitoba.
right. Okay. So you're
So I
still there
finished,
finishing school,
yeah, finished that
basically.
up. Came here to work for the government. Realized I didn't like that sort of work, and started working in a bike shop.
Well, you know, that government's either for you or not for you. But now, okay. So you said you're in economics. And this is where we're going to dive in. We're going to go because what we really want to talk about here is how you got into, we know how you got into cycling. Now you found yourself a Bushtukah, but where is the translation from like economics to computer science and AI? Like, I don't think
Yeah,
you can almost be almost at the total separate ends, like arts and like AI. Like,
yeah. So it's kind of funny. The the funny connection too is economics to bike fitting. um,
yeah,
and
well,
then
yeah, I can
both
see the
to
transition.
yeah. So in economics, sometimes and you have econometrics, which is like dealing with big data sets, and so you will use uh, some data science kind of approaches and statistical approaches, which they're used to all be done kind of with like giant spreadsheets type thing, and just traditional statistical analysis, and then you're moving into like a machine learning way of dealing with big data. So that's when I went back and I was like, well, I like bike fitting, but kind of as an aside, I'm having trouble with my hands, so I can't like work on bikes all the time, and my hands just are kind of starting to give up on me.
Oh,
So I've started to think, I need to get out of working with my hands all day, so computer work. And so there's like a big data approach which is where kind of the economics and computer science kind of line up, and that's where I was kind of going. And as you mentioned in the introduction, I was looking at ways where you could use kind of a machine learning to identify kind of individual performance metrics that might be able to quickly pick up, you know, um, performance outliers kind of and athletes that you might be able to pick them up earlier through some of the algorithms I was working on. But I realized there that I didn't really have a big enough data set. And it's interesting, I don't know if you follow Trainer Road, but some of the things they're doing now with their AI training is kind of what I was working on a few years ago. And
wow.
then I found computer vision, and I was like, wow, you can do some cool stuff with this, and started to work on a bike fit app.
Ah, okay. Now, like, okay, so what's going on with Trainer Road? Because I wasn't following Trainer Road. I was on Swift, but
Yeah,
like I've heard great things about Train. Oh no, not Trainer Road. It's Ruby. Ruby's more of a visual
yeah,
like cycling experience. Trainer Rogue, I've been following some guys on who have a podcast, and they talk about a lot of the Trainer Rogue stuff. Um, so being new to like online coaching myself and training, like I just got into it this year. I was evading it, I guess, and then like too many of my girlfriends were getting on, so it's just the pure pressure.
Yeah.
Like I don't want the FOMO of missing out. So I got on, but what are they doing? So explain like this, and how's it relating to you?
Well, so it only relates to me by coincidence that we were,
Okay.
I was working on something to use like predictive analytics in training. And basically what they're doing now is, for better or for worse, there's a few things like, I mean, they're an amazing company and I don't want to anyway say what they're doing isn't amazing. But what they've done is they've dug into their data and used a couple different kind of machine learning approaches to kind of breaking down the big data and predicting kind of ways to train. So they're basically, and I'm not really the one to explain exactly what they're doing, but they're using AI to kind of break down all their training data and say this is kind of what works, and then kind of applying that to the individual, so it will basically give you individual workouts to do based on your current fitness, where you're going, what your goals are, and what your time is.
Right.
Yeah.
I think Swift kind of has something like that. I mean, you can obviously pick what your goal is, how hard you want to work, your time frame, and then it's just like, boom, here's some programs that
Here's their plan.
Here's your plan for the week. You need to do these four by the Sunday night, and then you get the next week and things like that. I was on one of those. Not very successful. Started at the end of the season. I'm kind of like, no. I'm just going to do all the easy ones. But so now you've taken AI and you've developed this program. Now I know like Jesse is potentially going to throw us up a demonstration. So that's why seeing this on YouTube is going to be advantageous. So if you really want to see the visual. So talk about how you decided to put this together as a program, and then we're going to ask you how you're, I guess, marketing it to individuals to be able to help people globally, because I think that's amazing as a coach. Like I'm trying to target global clients for like helping them with skill development, on the basic skills, but this is really interesting. So share with us, Jesse.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess my motivation was I see people coming in, and I mean, you see them on the side of the road riding like in these atrocious positions, and you have this history of suffering being like an acceptable part of cycling, and I was just like, how I don't want to be the person to, I'll never tell somebody on the side of the road, you need to make an adjustment on your bike. Like I've never once said it. I'll never kind of answer people on the road if they're like, hey, how does my position look? Because there's just so much more to it than what you can just see riding beside somebody for a couple seconds. So I wanted to create something that enabled anybody to get into a decent position. Now, it might not be the same position we get into in the fit studio, but I can guarantee it's a much sounder position than most people will get to on their own. Some people get there on their own eventually. Some people get worse when they try to adjust their bikes. And so, I developed the system that uses a pose estimation to kind of figure out where you are on your bike, measure you, and make recommendations on what to change.
Awesome. I love it because as a coach, I can eyeball people pretty quickly as to, the typical thing is the stem's too high or it's too low.
Yeah.
That's where I just like look at, okay, what if and there's like, oh my gosh, what a difference. And then now like I find, so that's where I start when I'm doing my clinics, slight adjustments that you can make like, right away. And then I'm finding like now that people are buying bikes randomly, you just, people are, are being sold bikes that aren't proper for them just to get the sale, just to get the bike actually.
Yeah.
So are you finding lots of stuff like that now that you're how long have you been in Bushtukah, and how did you find yourself there?
So I've been at Bushtukah since 2013, end of 2012.
Oh, wow, like 8 years.
Yeah. So I originally, when I moved to Ottawa, I was working in another bike shop. I was doing a little bit of bike fitting. And I kind of knew I really liked bike fitting. Like that was my favorite. I knew if I had an appointment with somebody, it was my favorite part of it. I loved giving that attention to people. So I kind of went out on a limb, and I flew to Boulder, and I had studied at the Retul training center there and got certified. And then I basically came back with a certification, a couple weeks of experience with the best fitters in the world, or some of the best fitters in the world, and a business plan. And I kind of went to a few shops. Yeah. And, Bushtukah said, you know what? Yeah, we want to improve our fit or add to our fit services. My wife is a designer and landscape architect, so we designed the studio in the back corner at Bushtukah and built it up. And that's kind of how we started there.
So tell me about this program. And is it something that Trek offers like once a year because of the length and the coaches that are involved?
The one that I went at Retul?
Yeah.
So they actually stopped doing that. So they it's now kind of offered through, because Retul right after got bought by Specialized.
Okay.
And so now they offer it through Specialized. And it was when I did it, it was a 2-week program. And so you kind of, it was really intensive. I planned on riding a bit while I was in Boulder, but I don't think I got out for one bike ride.
Yeah, really.
In the time I was
this is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Oh man, it was awesome. We were there right after. I think at that time it was Garmin Sharp. So we overlapped with them for a little bit. So the whole team went out there and did some fitting, or not the whole team, but a number of the guys were out there getting fit. So we were able to see some of their fit data and stuff. So that was pretty cool. And so it was kind of everything from like physical assessments to like why we measure people the way we do, and kind of how to use the tech. It was a really great kind of, I think it's a great, and actually when I did it, you had to do an entrance test, which they kind of stopped doing. Unfortunately, I think that's kind of a good approach. So you kind of have to have like a base level of knowledge. And then, I think it's a good way to kind of augment like experience with people. Like I never think somebody should go into that with no fit experience, but it's kind of hard to get fit experience without fitting. And so it's always tough.
So you were one lucky guy to get through that program before it closed shop. So then you came back and you started working with Bushtukah and adding that to their repertoire of, so people pay separately to go see you, or is it part of their bike purchase?
Separately. So they, so there's, you buy your bike and then you pay for a bike fit. And then it's not only clients. I would say it's probably like 60% of my clients have bought a bike. The last year has been different because so many people are buying bikes, but typically it's like 60% people who had bought bikes from the store, and then kind of 40% of people just from the community.
How long does your bike fits take?
I would say an average of 90 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's
we
like
alloc
half, less than half the time of a typical one, which is like 4 hours, 3 to 4 hours, depending
yeah, so
on your.
I allocate 3 hours.
Mhm.
And then it's usually, I mean, so the assessment's usually 30 minutes. And then, you know, we're usually adjusting the bike within the first hour. And then once we're adjusting the bike, usually it's pretty clear right away where we need to go. And then it's just kind of getting there.
Yeah. So talk to me through like the AI part. So you have just started applying that portion to your bike fits, correct?
Yeah, so MyVeloFit is, and I want to kind of be clear that what I've done with MyVeloFit is kind of separate from my like
Okay.
fitting practice. So
Okay.
my fitting practice at Bushtukah is my hands-on bike fit. MyVeloFit, the app, and we call it an app, but it's a web page, basically a web app, is a completely separate entity, and it is, you know, an automated bike fit. So you upload a video of yourself on the bike, and it will generate. Uh, it will measure your angles just as I would with a Retul system or a motion capture system or Dartfish or Coach's Eye, whatever you'd be using to measure somebody. It automatically measures your position on the bike and assesses your movement, and then makes recommendations. I do use it at Bushtukah as a kind of preset of measurements while the person's on the bike, just because it's so quick and easy. It gives me a really high level understanding of what the person is doing on the bike before I even have them up on or I even have the motion capture markers on them.
So you have a demo, you have something you can show us.
Yes.
Yeah, let's see that. And I will walk people, or maybe you can walk people through as much verbally so that our listeners can hear what you're talking about. Maybe they can go back to the video and catch it, or even go check what Jesse's website. So it is myvelofit.com, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And check it out for yourself. But here's
Yeah.
demo. Go for it, Jess.
Yeah, I'll just I'll share the screen.
Yeah.
Screen here.
All right.
I apologize if you can see the 40 tabs that I have open.
That looks like my computer.
Yeah, that's just
I think
one
you can
window
fully
too.
screen it if you like a full screen, if you want to hide all that stuff so I don't see what you're looking at.
That better?
Slightly, but anyways. All right. So walk us through here.
So this is what somebody would see after they've uploaded a video, and I'll go back to the upload video part afterwards, but this is what somebody would see after they've uploaded a video. And so this is the recommendations for this person. So we can click on each one and it will kind of break down what the recommendations are. But for myself on this upload, it's saying to lower the saddle 2.5 millimeters, move it back 5 millimeters.
Okay, so everybody, the recommendation changes. So it comes up with little tabs, and one of them, like Jesse was saying, for this particular person, so I guess this is for Jesse himself, there's saddle height, saddle before and after, arm pad height. Okay, so this is a tri bike, I guess.
Yes. Yeah.
Arm pad reach and additional information. So basic, what you're saying from the picture, these are the immediate recommendations that this person needs to do for their bike.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome.
And,
ooh, look at that.
So
okay, look at this
we'll
picture.
Scroll down, and I apologize for the topless person, which is me.
Well, as long as it's you.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is what the output would be of of an upload. So it's a person with
Okay.
their wire frame, so you can
Yeah.
see how you've been tracked.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so it shows kind of what we're seeing. There's a couple different positions. So we have you at the top of the pedal stroke, the bottom, the forward part of the pedal stroke, and then this is what we call the overall positioning. And I'll go a little bit
Okay.
deeper into
Between the
that.
right.
And yeah, it just kind of identifies the total fore-aft knee movement, the total fore-aft ankle movement, this pedaling ellipse. So the trace of your ankle, which we can talk about why that's important in a little bit.
Yes.
And
I
then
love
we
talking
have
about that. Okay.
then we have a video just to see what's happening. So it's you and your wireframe with the real-time measurements.
Okay, this is super cool, guys. So basically what we're looking at Jesse in a bib short on his bike. So just to be clear, he's not totally half naked. And he's on his tri bike, and you can see the stick figure basically over him. And then it's running through a video of him pedaling. So you can see the stick figure. You can also see the angles of his hips to knees to ankles, as well as his reach on his tri-bike. So this is a before, right?
Yeah, this is a before. I actually don't have an after of myself in this situation.
Okay.
This was actually back quite a while ago when I was doing some testing on the tri and TT models, just to make sure we were getting adequate or accurate measurements and making the proper recommendations for it. So yeah,
So
this
you
is
can,
just
yeah, so you can see like there's lacking that 90-degree, right, from the elbow to shoulder. Like,
yeah.
you can see that.
Yeah, this is a little bit stretched out here, if I remember correctly, and the saddle's just a touch high. Yeah, and I mean that's what the recommendations are, right? Lower the saddle,
Wow.
move the reach back, so it's a little bit stretched out, and so it picked up on that too.
Wow,
Um,
that's
uh,
pretty amazing.
yeah, I'll add to that we do a mobility assessment as well. I don't know. I don't think I can show you the mobility assessment because it's not me on that one, but I'll show you a different example at some point. So you go through a few movements and it will tell you what your mobility is like, and then apply that mobility screen to your measurements. So you and I, if we had the same dimensions would but different mobility, would still get different recommendations on what to do with the bike based on our own individual mobility.
Very cool. Wow. Okay. So let's take this. So everybody should check out his Bike Fit website. And so I've noticed that like you said, this is for the average person to better set themselves up. Like, it's not a full bike fit. Like, that's what you pay the bike, the big bucks for, or you spend the time with your bike fitter to do this. But this is great because there are so many people I found that have been set up poorly as they walk, when they set up their bikes, or maybe their bike is just so old, and they just never knew. Because, like I was saying, as a cycling coach and doing clinics, that's kind of one of the first things I assess. It's not the type of bike they're on, it's like how they're set up and how they can be better and faster and more comfortable and more efficient. Like you're saying, usually it's putting the stem up, the seat post. It's either too low or too high, and that's usually where I'm like, like you're like sitting on the
Yeah.
frame and your knees are like in your chin. I'm like, I think, we could probably put that up and you'd probably be a lot faster and a lot more comfortable. But so tell us about the whole, like, your whole website, and how like the average person can do it. Like, I know we talked a little bit about the back end, but say if I was to go and sign up, and I noticed that you have different price points.
Yeah.
So talk about that.
So yeah, I'll start with the price points. We have kind of 4 options. So we have a free version where you can upload your video. You can do the full process. So you can do all the process just like you would with the paid version. The only difference with that is you don't get specific recommendations. So it will say seat height, good or bad. It won't say what to do about it. And the really nice thing there, we encourage people to start with the free version because I don't want you to pay and then get no recommendations. So if you do it and says everything's good, then great. Like don't you're done. You still might not be comfortable. You still might need adjustments, but you're kind of out of the scope of what we can offer. You can still get a little bit of a gain from that because that's going to tell you you're in range. But with the paid version, you can see where you are in those ranges and still adjust. So that's the free version. Anybody can do that for free. And we encourage people to start with that. Then we have 2 different paid versions. One is a 2-week of access for a single bike. That's $35. And we like that you can have a few weeks to adjust because that way you can kind of do a few adjustments, let that settle in, see how you feel, come back a couple days later, do a couple more adjustments.
Yeah,
then
that's a good.
Yeah, it's a great way. And that's something that I can't really offer in my studio. I offer in my studio a guarantee where you can come back, but I can't have you come back 3 times in 2 weeks, or I would just be swamped, more swamped than I already am. And then we offer a $75 package, which is unlimited bikes for a year for one person. So that's still just for a single person. And we have a way of identifying. The cool thing with AI is we can also identify if somebody else is using your profile, and we catch a few people every once in a while.
That's not the same bike you started with. No, you can't put your mountain bike and your road bike and your gravel bike and and your kid's bike on here.
Well, you can on the
unlimited one,
$75 one, but not.
Yeah.
And you can in the $35 one too. It just doesn't let you separate them and set them up as different profiles. So like when you say you're on a TT bike, it's going to give you adjustments based on your TT bike. If you're then on a mountain bike, it's going to think you're still on a TT bike and then give you really weird adjustment recommendations.
I love it.
Yeah. And then we have a 4th option, which is a tier for, we call them partners, but it's anyone who wants to use it commercially. So we have coaches, we have shops, we have athletic therapists, we have physiotherapists. We have just kind of random people who want to, fit their friends and or fit their community.
So talk about that, because if you want, that's probably brings you in. So they pay a membership fee for that?
They pay a monthly.
Okay.
So monthly subscription based on the number of people they plan on fitting. So 5, 10, 25, or 50 are the tiers that we have.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So if you're a big shop, you would want the 50. If you're an individual who might, and that's per month. If you're an individual,
50 people per month, like you're saying. Okay, you only get 50 individual accounts, I guess. Yeah.
So, and then, so five at the small end, 50 at the high end. And then so if you go over, you can still add people. You're just charged for each individual after you go over.
Oh, smart, Jesse.
Yeah. So it's based on, so we already have like a couple terabytes of data, and like we really just kind of launched. I mean, we officially launched in November, but we only really started promoting it in April. And we have like terabytes of data. We use the computers we have to use. Our servers are like really high end AWS servers that cost a ton of money to operate. So it's not like we're just now raking in. Like every user who uses it, we we are paid, like we are charged for every single time you upload. So there's a cost associated with it. And that's why we kind of have these tiers.
Right. No, I get it. I guess. Because like people are just like, well, what are you talking about? Like, doesn't it go to the cloud? No, it doesn't go to the cloud. It goes to my server. So are you hosting all those servers? Or
No, so
you...
it is actually the cloud. So it's cloud servers, but we still pay by
Yeah.
like, so they're spot instances. So we pay per second basically.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Actually,
So
I think it's per minute, but yeah.
okay. So hear that. It's not just as easy as you think from the back end. Like,
Yeah.
so are you able, okay, so I know that this data isn't accessible to you. Like you're just saying like you've got terabytes of data that people are already have used that much of your program. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and like, so one of the benefits, the cool thing as we get into like the big data is like we've got like hundreds of millions of data points from people uploading. So every pedal stroke of every person's upload is analyzed and saved. So as we kind of go, we're building this bigger and bigger database so we can kind of improve the product. Basically every upload improves the product.
So do you spend time like, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, so like, and I was just saying like, so every time you upload a file, it's kind of added to the database of, and it's non-personalized. So it's not like Sylvie, this, and this, and this. It's just a line item with no identification to the person.
Right.
But it is kind of, yeah, it is kind of storing that information and then kind of crawling it and iterating over it.
That is super cool. So Jesse, do you spend time analyzing this data and thinking of you said that you're thinking of new ways on how to improve your product. Are you also thinking of different products that can be created?
Yes, but I can't really go into them because there's a few things that we have a few really cool things that we're working on.
Do you want to share?
I can't. There's two reasons. There's like, yeah, I don't even think I can say that much about it. Yeah, there's like patent things that we have to deal with and kind of first to market things that we have to deal with. So I can't go that deep into. And what we are, so we have like, there's two really major improvements. Not improvement, I'll call them just new features that we're going to roll out eventually. And what we're doing, because we don't want to say, oh, just wait to sign up. What we'll do when we do launch those is everybody who's had a membership, we'll just gift them another week onto it. So everybody will get a chance to use the new features as we launch them. So it shouldn't stop somebody from signing up now.
Oh, you're gonna have to repeat that because you froze.
Oh, sorry. I don't know where I cut off, but when we launch these new features, we're gonna still give everybody who signed up previously a chance to use them. So if your account is expired and we launch something new and cool, we'll kind of backwards gift everybody a chance to try them.
Yeah, because I bought into a couple programs where they're new AI technology like this, and whoever buys into it now gets like basically a lifetime membership, and then the next people after that round or like when it closes are have to pay the new price. So that might be a good way of marketing, getting like a solid membership. But okay, I have a question.
Yes.
So through your analytics, have you kind of, has there anything different from a bike fitter's perspective, and seeing all this new data has stuck out in that's something you've never seen before? Like, it's something like, oh, I never noticed that, or through bike fits, or like, do you know what I mean? Like, is there anything new that's kind of surfaced that you've kind of didn't think of before, like as a bike fitter?
Well, yeah,
I'm
so
just curious.
there's a couple things that so one really tough problem that we've had is identifying fore aft. So what you would traditionally do, and this method isn't being used as much or as much as a driver anymore, but it was old plumb line drop from the knee to determine fore aft. So that was originally like a really major driver, right? Like plumb line over the knee, directly over the pedal spindle. That kind of moved on the back burner for especially kind of a tri/TT fit. But it's still kind of used in a way of determining fore aft. Can I share my screen again?
Yeah,
And
for sure.
I'll try to kind of explain this for the people who aren't watching. You can see me on my bike again there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we look at what we traditionally would have done, this is my pedal stroke at 90 degrees. You can see my cursor as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So pedal stroke at 90 degrees, and you would drop a plumb bob here over the knee.
Right. From your knee to your foot. Yeah.
Yeah.
To the
That's not being used that much anymore. And what we're now seeing a lot of schools teach is the center of mass, which is here on the other one. So the center of mass would be
torso.
defined as the center point of the torso, basically.
Oh,
And now we're
really?
starting to see that used as the fore aft indicator on the bike. And so the tough thing is with AI, with computer vision, we actually can't really see the bike that well. We can only really see the person. We can see the bike, but it's tough to kind of determine where you are over the bike. So what we started to look at were ways that we could identify how you're moving on the bike relative to the bike. And that's where we started to come up with this pedaling ellipse. And so this is a point cluster of all your ankle points. So if we see this one here, we can see that a little bit better. So this has tracked every single one of your ankle points through the pedal stroke.
That's crazy.
This is the knee. And then here, I don't know, you can barely see it, is all your shoulder points and all your hip points. And this shows the lateral motion at the hip, the lateral motion at the shoulder, the total knee motion, and then the total ankle motion. And what we started to do with this is look at the relative movement between each, specifically the knee, ankle, and center of mass, to determine the fore aft. What I'm actually getting is kind of better measurements than what I get with my kind of traditional fit system, because it doesn't kind of cluster and break down the data the same way. And so we're able to get really cool measurements of fore aft and really identify movement patterns such as this ellipse. So here, if this was a road position, and here we can see how this ellipse is kind of turned forward a few degrees. So instead of being straight up, if this was on a road position and we had you pedaling kind of with a forward offset, that would be really bad. But on a TT or a tri position where everything is rotated forward, this is actually what we're looking for.
Okay. Yeah. So for everybody who's listening, Jesse is showing us his positioning again. So it's kind of like the stick figure over in alignment with the body. And he's got lines that are aligning. So remember he was talking about the plumb line. So now he's got a line from the torso. So I would say kind of the rib cage right there down through the quad, that I imagine that line is supposed to be hitting the spindle. Is that where it's heading, or to the
so on this one we're just looking on a tri position. I would be looking kind of about like this, right? Like we're going to want it kind of in the middle of this knee tracking.
Right. Yeah.
On a road position, you'd be much more upright,
Right.
and then that's going to be kind of lined up over the ankle.
Right. And so also what Jesse is showing in his before is a lot of these little points that are picking up data as he's moving. So from the hip, he's got one at the shoulder, back around where the calves are. So it's quite interesting to visually see this. So I'm just trying to verbally keep you in on the loop here. And also the pedaling. Now, when you're talking about this oval between the front, to the right and the left foot. Now, what if this person, say it's not you, what if you were toe pointing a lot and the ankle is way high?
Yeah, so that one, the really cool thing we can look at with that is that, so with an ellipse, so the scope between a circle and like a really long stretched out ellipse, that's called the eccentric, I can't say it. How eccentric it is, we'll say.
Right.
So it would be more eccentric if it was more stretched out.
Right.
And so people who toe more will have a more eccentric circle or ellipse there. And people whose saddles are too high will also get a more eccentric ellipse. So we're able to identify that through this. And we're not giving recommendations yet on that. We're still getting data on kind of what is right and what is wrong with how eccentric that ellipse is. But yeah, it does pick up on that. The other thing that we'll look at, and I'm going to stop sharing here and just grab somebody else, if it lets me, that I have permission to share with. So you can't see this now, right?
No.
Okay. Yeah, let me just grab another set of measurements.
Because you had a female on your website.
Yes, and that's who I'm trying to find.
Yeah. Because you can see it on his website. He has the demonstration, and super cool. Like I was certified bike fit like about 10 years ago. I never chose to put it into real business form because I preferred spending more of my time coaching over bike fitting because you can literally only do 2 a day. But yeah, so this is the one that's on your website. But it's really good as a coaching perspective to be able to recommend basic recommendations from people straight away, which I do. But cool. Okay, so
here we have, so I don't have, this is before we started to work with the overlapping the circle, but here you can visually see 2 things. One, how kind of stretched out her pedaling is here, and also how the knee and ankle end up occupying almost the same space. So you see this a lot with smaller people and longer cranks, where they're going through this really big range of motion,
right.
and it's coming all the way up to their ankles coming all the way up to her knees. So if we go back to me, hopefully that's me.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
you can see the gap here, and I probably have shorter legs than her, but I have shorter cranks here as well. So we're not kind of getting so compressed in our pedaling, or sorry, going through such a big range of motion.
I know a couple girls who had their cranks who were recommended to get longer cranks and were way more comfortable because of it. Because they had shorter legs. Cranks? No, it's longer. No, just a second. No, I think it was longer. She got longer cranks because she was more compressed and and it alleviated a lot of her back pain. But
Typically, you would see that going from a longer crank to a shorter crank. It will open things up quite a bit.
I'm just trying to think of my girlfriend. She's like, yeah, she went for a bike fit, and because of her torso she had longer hip, like thigh bones. Was it thigh bones? And so it was her leg length, like, and anyways, I was like, what, really? And she made this shift, whether it was, I think it was longer, and it alleviated a lot of pain when she was cycling. But I mean, from yours, you can't really make that distinction. Like, you'd have to see somebody, like you'd have to
No,
visit.
we actually have it will flag if needed. So we look
really?
at there's 3 things, and the nice thing is, so in my studio I'd look at the same 3 things, and there are things that are really easy to measure. So it is the and it depends on road versus trial or time trial. So we look at total knee range of motion, so how open and closed the knee gets.
Okay.
Right, so the total, so basically the flexion minus the extension, and then we'll look at, so all 3 of those, so extension, flexion, and the range of the 2. And then specifically with like an arrow position, we'll look at, it's called hip angle closed. So how close that hip or that knee comes to your chest, basically.
Yeah.
So if those are getting too closed, it's an issue, especially with kind of the plagued hip mobility that we have now from everybody sitting in a chair all day. Like, most people have terrible hip mobility. So if that's getting too closed, then we'll want to open that up by going to shorter cranes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or if you're going through too much range of motion.
Right. Yeah. All the sitting is providing a lot of interesting things nowadays, isn't it? So, all right. So we've been chatting a long time. Now, is there anything that you've been noticing recently coming into your studio with regards to bike fits?
Well, so I've been closed now for
oh yeah, right.
for almost 2 months. So
well, this is perfect. You can like shoot people your website, like, here, sorry, I can't bike fit you.
Well, so during the last lockdown, it was great. I was sending people to the website to do it, and then when they're coming in, it's one of the greatest benefits of this, I find, is when people now come into the studio having used MyVeloFit, they're coming in kind of from a decent starting position and not just like a completely unsound position. So you can get into a good starting position and still need tweaks, but they're generally really small tweaks. And then so I can send somebody away from there a lot more confident that they're going to be in a good position from there and not need to come back for adjustments. Whereas when people are coming in and I'm changing their saddle height by 4 centimeters, I'm changing the stem length by 2 centimeters, then it's like, well, I don't like, yes, this is a lot better, but it's going to be such a big change that we might still need to make micro adjustments from here, but let's at least kind of get you into a good starting position. So now they're coming to me in a good starting position, and the fit's a lot easier.
So when somebody books something with you, do you automatically now send them that free, like, just say, use a free version before you start,
No, I'm not doing that, because I am trying to keep them kind of separate.
I see.
As separate things. Yeah. I mean, when things were closed, I was sending people to that as a starting point, because I was having people every day, like, because it's all you can do right now is go for a bike ride. And I see a huge correlation. So one thing I do see in my studio is a huge correlation to volume and people wanting bike fit. So I see these spikes. So it's usually kind of mid-June. I'll see a big
Of course.
spike as people have
Mm-hmm.
been, you know, most injuries you pick up on the bike aren't from riding at once. They're from, riding it
Overuse.
5-10
Yeah.
hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people, and a lot of people won't even realize they're kind of injuring themselves until they're injured.
Right.
So I always see a kind of a mid to late June. And then kind of you notice, especially in the Ottawa area, a lot of people kind of go on vacation, July, August. So I'll see things kind of slow down, especially August. But when we have these really nice Septembers that we've been having, see a huge spike at the end of September because people are trying to get it all in.
Right
They've come
before the
back from
winter and on
vacation,
their
they
trainer.
want to ride a lot. Yeah. And then so they ride a lot and then they come back in.
Yeah. Oh, here's a question. Trainer to road.
Yeah, it's a tough one. So trainers, you're always going to be more comfortable, a little bit more upright, and a little bit less stretched out on the trainer.
Mm-hmm.
There's a really kind of, it's obvious once you hear about it and think about it, but it doesn't really kind of come to mind when you're doing it. So on the road, there's a few things happening. The obvious one is you're micro adjusting, you're moving around on the bike, so you don't have those same pressure points. The less obvious one is you actually have less pressure on your hands and feet on the road than you do on
Mm-hmm.
the trainer because you have the wind kind of lifting you up. So you get the wind resistance that provides a little bit of upward lift and
Yeah.
requires you to use less core to kind of hold yourself. So you have and they work together. So you're less comfortable because you're static, and then you're less comfortable because you have more weight and have to engage your core more to kind of lift yourself or to balance yourself. So if you're doing a ton of volume on the trainer, and you're uncomfortable, I usually kind of move people up and back a little bit. So up with the front end and back with the front end. So you're a little bit less stretched out and a little bit more upright.
What do you mean by that?
So it'd usually be a stem, raising the stem and shortening the stem.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah.
Sometimes you can get away with a really small reduction in saddle height, but I don't like to play that much with the saddle height.
Forget about it. Go out
Yeah,
riding. You're like, what the hell?
yeah, exactly. And by
Yeah.
small adjustment, I mean like 2 to 5 millimeters.
Yeah, I know, because like being the first time spending a lot of time on the trainer, it certainly is like you just get in that position where your hand pressure is on your handlebars for a long time. And you're like, oh my God, and your ass hasn't moved at all because,
Yeah,
like outside you're always moving and hands are, moving around on the handlebars. And yeah, and you can always just sort of adjust. But yeah, all right. Well, oh my gosh. Okay. So we're going to wrap this up. But Jesse, is there any last bit of information you want to throw out there? Let people know where we can find you before we wrap it up.
yeah. So I mean, you've already said it. The website's myvelofit.com. Again, give it a try. We say, try the free version first. Then you can upgrade to the paid version if you want to see your full results. We do have a 30-day guarantee. So if you kind of just never really get comfortable out of it, or the results kind of don't sync with you, we have I think we're under 1% on refunds. So very few people are using them, and they tend to be people who end up having kind of trouble with the technical side of uploading a video, which I mean isn't that hard, but some people kind of have trouble with it. So yeah, give the free version a
iPads.
try, and then kind of you can upgrade from there. And then we're on Facebook and Instagram, mostly, both at MyVeloFit, for those.
Okay. I have one last question because I could develop. Okay. So for your affiliates,
Yes.
this is really important because I know if people who are listening to it are probably like, I want to be in touch with him, and just give us a little information on how to reach out to you for that, and take advantage of that where they are, anywhere globally. Because I'm sure that, you know, that's something that you want to get out and have more people, you know, using this within their clubs, teams, maybe wherever.
Yeah, so the affiliates, we're calling them the partners.
Right.
You can reach out, so you can use the contact us form on the webpage. If you go to the myvelofit.com/partners, it will kind of give you a breakdown of the pricing.
Okay.
There, we just have the 3 main packages there, but we do have a smaller package for really small individuals, basically. So that's five customers a month. The 2 people we have using, or 1 person I think is using that, and he's going over every month. So I think he's going to upgrade to the 10 people a month.
Yeah.
One. So we have those that information there. You can email me, jesse@myvelofit.com, JESSE too, if you want more information on that. And yeah, that's a really great tool for if you want to kind of monetize it yourself, because then you can charge people to fit them yourself however you want. So incorporate it into your business however you want. And the nice thing there too is it gives you, so like, the AI is great. It will give you recommendations, but there's always kind of, not always, but there are times where, you know, the AI will pick up on something that will get you into range, but it's just this little tweak with things that the computer vision just can't see. And that's where it takes like just a little bit of an experienced eye to be like, okay, well, you're 90% of the way there. Let's just do this little adjustment from there.
Yeah. And to understand, I guess, everybody, that true, like, this is just for eyeballing, making like those adjustments yourself. But if you're truly in pain after you're finished adjusting, you probably should see a professional, like make that booking. I love it. I think it's amazing. And hopefully we have lots of people listening to this and contacting you after this segment. I want to thank you so much for your time and your explanations, because I'm sure, I think I have a feeling I'm going to reach out to you myself. And seeing that you're local, woo-hoo, awesome, even better. So before everybody take off, make sure you put your notifications on. Make sure you share this with somebody you know who rides their bike, who maybe has been feeling a little, or maybe you just want to share it with somebody who you think needs to adjust their bike. And this could probably help them. You're like, that person you'll be riding behind you, like, you know, I think this is for you. And also follow both of us. And we would love to hear your biggest takeaway on this episode. Don't forget to give us an amazing review on iTunes, and also 5 stars, right, Jesse? We deserve 5 stars for this,
Of course,
because this is like cycle world changing. Sorry, I don't know what to say, but I think this is just the next step to where technology is going with regards to bike fits and cycling. So I'm excited that this is global and anybody can just use it. So this is pretty awesome. Thanks a lot, Jesse.
thanks.